Hi, I'm Chris Clark, President and CEO of the Queen Creek Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to Meet the Candidate. Today we're doing a special edition with Jean Stockton, candidate for Santan Valley Town Council. Welcome, Jean.
Thanks, Chris. I appreciate the invite, and hopefully we can get things rolling for Santan Valley so we're as successful as Queen Creek.
Oh, I'm sure you will, and we appreciate that. But tell us a little bit about your background and your experience.
I have an extensive background in corporate America. My job required me to travel a lot, so I wasn't really involved in community activities or functions or government until after I retired. I worked for a utility company for like 16 years. I worked for a major IT company for 20 years. I worked for an aircraft company in Omaha, Nebraska for 7 years. So I have a diverse background. And in working with the IT company, I worked with a lot of Fortune 500 companies, and we would transition their information technology services to our model. So I was afforded an opportunity to work with businesses in different towers.
Wow. And so with that background and your retirement to the area, why do you want to serve on the town council? And what are you specifically looking to do?
I'm not cheap, I'm frugal, and I'm conservative. And when you start out, even when you start out a new household, you have to understand where you spend your money so you can get the most bang for your buck, and you're not having to redo it, 2 or 3 years down the road. That's what I want to make sure that Santan Valley does, is that we're investing the money properly that comes from the taxes from the people that we represent. We're investing it wisely, and that we're building a strong foundation so the people in years to come don't have to go back and redo or undo what we've done.
Okay. And so with that in mind, what do you think the top 3 priorities for the town are as it's getting started? This is a really unique situation, so everything having to be built from scratch and so much going into it.
I think, so the first thing people are going to say is we need parks. I agree we need parks, but to make sure that we can get to the parks safely, we need to focus on the roads and the infrastructure. We have schools that participate in swim programs, and those students get on buses and they travel to other areas so that they can use their swimming pools. Supervisor Goodman has mentioned it several times that we have a huge deficit there. And I agree with him. We need to provide services for our kids that they can take advantage of within our community. So I would say swimming pools, infrastructure, and building a strong economic base. So I think with a Chamber of Commerce and an economic development group with the town of Santan Valley, that we can start sitting down at the table and attracting businesses that's going to help the people in Santan Valley so that they don't have to drive an hour to get a blood test.
Well, that is my next question, actually, is your economic development strategy, because everybody relies on commercial hubs and jobs outside of town, so they're traveling on the roads. What steps do you think you can take to attract those high-quality jobs and retail and office spaces to come to Santan Valley?
Well, I think for one thing, I think we need to build a strong partnership with our neighboring communities so that they understand what avenues we're wanting to explore and work with us to make that happen. If there's a Chamber of Commerce, I know that they have a group where all the chambers get together and they collaborate. And I think if we have that strong partnership with the communities that surround us, they can help direct some of those businesses in our direction. And say, for instance, if a business comes to us and it doesn't make a good fit for our community, we in turn can turn them to the other communities. So I think having a strong Chamber of Commerce and working together with our neighboring communities will help us the best.
And yes, and we are fortunate to be in a position where we can help when the time is right for that chamber. So, and those talks are happening. So very good. And what about financial sustainability? You mentioned being fiscally conservative. So what's your strategy to manage the municipal budget and ensure essential services are funded and yet minimize the immediate tax burden on people? What do you think is going to have to happen with taxes and revenue streams?
Well, eventually the taxes are going to have to be increased. We don't pay a city sales tax currently, so I'm expecting that will happen. As come with anything, if you want quality of service, you have to pay for it. We get the rain free when it comes, but it doesn't come that often. So we need to capitalize on the funds that we do get and make sure that we're spending them wisely. I don't believe in taxing just because we can. I believe in taxing when we should. And I think if that message gets out to the people in the community, they'll understand that we don't want our taxes to go up any more than we want their taxes to go up. So I think if we take that mindset and they understand that we're not just throwing a dart at the dartboard and saying we're going to spend this much this year, but I think it's responsible to put money aside. We don't want to live paycheck to paycheck. So we want to build, like a fund where if an unexpected expense comes up that we could draw on that. And I think that's just being a mature and conservative type of person when it comes to your spending.
Okay. And that also leads into infrastructure. You mentioned it a couple of times, and traffic solutions. Road capacity is definitely an issue. And so how do you think you can fund and fast track road improvements and work with the state or county to alleviate the congestion, particularly, say, on Gansel or Ironwood and that whole area?
I think we have a very strong relationship with the county to begin with. And I think the solution is to work with the county and push for the parkway. If the parkway is put in place, there's people that travel Hunt Highway and Ironwood/Gansel on a regular basis that live south of Arizona Farms Road. If we could divert that traffic from those two main thoroughfares, I think that it would give us a little bit of relief. Once that relief was recognized and felt, we could possibly alter some of the infrastructure that's in place now. There's some areas that are considered death traps, and I live closest to the worst intersection in Santan Valley, and that's Hunt Highway and Bella Vista. And there's some ingress and egress issues coming from businesses there close to that intersection. I think those should be addressed immediately, and then take a look at how we can expand after we divert some of that traffic.
And for those new to the area who may not know what the Parkway is, tell us a little bit about that.
Supervisor Goodman and the Pinal County Board of Supervisors have looked at putting a parkway over by the canal. And the canal is close to, if people aren't familiar, it's close to Quail Run. So if you take Skyline Drive down to Quail Run, it would be on the other side of the canal. And that's the closest area I can point you to it. But
Sure, the east side of town.
And I believe that they've negotiated some property rights there. I can't speak for that for sure. But if we can stand behind the county in getting that accomplished and diverting traffic, I think it would improve a lot of people's opinion and maybe reduce some road rage. There's a lot of road rage in Santan.
And so the parkway is limited access, so not a lot of driveways on it, and it would run from the future 24 south past town, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I believe it would go south of Arizona Farms Road before it would connect, and I think it would connect like into the 79. I can't tell you specifically, but I believe
and
that's where it's
just
going.
the corridor in general, and so almost a mini freeway on the east side of town that would help alleviate some of that pass-through traffic then.
Right.
What about zoning and community identity? How do you see an identity being formed around Santan Valley as far as its look and feel? What do you want to see happen there, and how do you think you can use zoning to help with that?
I think some of the obstacles that we've run into is Arizona is, a property rights state, and if somebody wants to change the rezoning from commercial to multi-residential, they can do it, and they should be able to do it. They own it. I think the town needs to come up with some type of a plan or an incentive to encourage those commercial zones to stay zoned commercially. If that means that the town has to throw people towards attracting economic development and, trying to bring people to the table so that they can use that property effectively and efficiently, I think that's what we need to do as far as some of the zoning issues. I think on the general scheme of zoning, it's different when you live in a town than when you're governed by the county. And they're rewriting some of the zoning codes now. And, we all agree. We don't want houses and cows in the backyards of a HOA backyard. There is a place for them. And I think that the more restrictive on the town ordinances, the more people are going to appreciate living in the rural communities. So for that reason, I'm 100% behind zoning appropriately as necessary. I also believe that the people that do own these large commercial properties, I don't think they really understand how many people we have there and what services we really do need. And I think that the town can help get that message across.
And what type of services are you thinking? What does the town need?
We have very little for youth to do. We have no senior citizen center. When you talk about the general population, we do have a large snowbird population that's here part of the year. But when I have to drive an hour to go get, a doctor's exam and a blood test, where we could maybe bring some more of those services to Santan Valley. Another thing that's kind of ironic, and I know it's not top on anybody's list, but You always see, where is there a laundromat? Well, once in a while, people's washers and dryers break down, and they have to go to Apache Junction or somewhere else. So if you listen to the community, they need senior citizens activities. They need stuff for the young kids, and they need stuff for the young adults. If we had a center where it could be split up and divided, amongst the community, we could maybe get some of the kids off the street that are doing graffiti, or, they get bored, so they're going to break into your car and steal whatever they can get. And most of the time the cars aren't locked, so they don't really have to break in. But if we could bring stuff like that to the community to serve those people, and myself, because I'm a senior, I think it would be really, really beneficial. And we don't have a lot of job opportunities for the young people in Santan Valley. So in order for them to work, they need a car, and they have to drive to Queen Creek or Florence or AJ. So if we bring more businesses and we bring a stronger sense of community, I think it would benefit us in an unsurmountable way.
Well, and you just touched on my next question again. Thank you. But that is parks and recreation. So what's your vision for parks and recreation in the town, and how can that be accomplished?
It's sad because I've never lived anywhere that's had such a huge deficit. And we have individuals that come to the town council meeting. I go every week or every 2 weeks because I want to stay in touch with what's going on. And we have individuals that come and they're pleading for parks because they need a place for these young kids to get together. And again, whether you want to admit it or not, that's a diversion from vandalism and doing little stuff on the street that maybe you shouldn't do. And we need to help those parents. It's not going to, it takes a village and it takes a town, and it's not going to help it happen on its own. I would like to see some parks built in an area where everyone can have access to them. We have parks in Johnson Ranch, but that's for our residents only. So a community park would be a great place for people not only to have their children recreate, but it would be networking. So you get to know parents that live in, Copper Basin or other parts of Santan Valley. Now we're limited to our own little geographical area, and this will bring us all together. And they'll get to know kids before they see them for the first time in high school.
Okay. And finally, what about transparency and citizen engagement? How do you want to structure the town meetings and community engagement to ensure residents and business owners are heard before decisions are finalized?
I think if it's a major undertaking, they should have a task force and they should have community meetings. They should get input from the community. Just because I don't like something doesn't mean that the people in the community don't like it. And when you're there to represent the community, you can't make judgments based on your own personal desires. So I think if you would have, somebody mentioned last night having like a coffee with the council, and I think that would be great. I used to help Neil Carter. He would do a free barbecue for the community. And it was great because it would bring people together and they could exchange ideas, and they don't know what they don't know. And they don't know that you can ask and somebody will help you. So I think if they would create like a couple of community events a year where everybody comes together, that would be fantastic. And I think if they did have, like a sign up to, chat with the council, and then do that sometimes on the weekends and sometimes later in the evening and sometimes in the afternoon, then you're going to hit all different age groups. And when you do the chat with the council, provide daycare. because people don't come because they have little kids. And if you have it in an area where the kids could play outside or they could play in a room and they're supervised, maybe we could get more young adults involved.
Okay. Anything that we haven't touched on that you wanted to bring up?
Well, I think it's real important for the town council to stay not in lockstep, but stay aligned with the people in the state of Arizona that represent us. And that goes as far as our neighboring communities. It goes to our state legislative representatives, our senators, our governors, and even if we have to on the federal level. I think people need to be involved and understand how important that is to have a good network like that, because if you stumble, they're going to be there to help pick you up. Otherwise, if you run autonomously, that's all you are. You're running in a vacuum and nobody's there to watch out for you. So I think it's real important that we foster those relationships and that we lean on people when we need to. You know, Queen Creek was real generous in lending money to Santan Valley. And of course, Santan Valley paid them a fair interest, or they're going to pay them a fair interest rate. And that shows good community relations. And I think that's really, really important, especially because we're brand new out of the chute. Other people have been there, they've done this, and we can learn from them.
Very good. How do people find more information about you, Jean?
I do have a website. It's stocktonfortowncouncil.com, and it's STOCKTON, the number 4, Town Council. And I do have an email address, and it's the same thing. It's stocktonfortowncouncil@yahoo.com. Please, if you have any questions, reach out to me. I do attend all of the town council meetings, so if you're a little shy and you don't want to ask them a question, shoot it to me in an email and I'll ask it on your behalf, because you know that's what I'm there for, is to help people get the information they need.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time today. It was a pleasure meeting you, and good luck with the campaign.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.